My business, especially because it's a spiritually led business, is faith-based, which means that I have faith that my business is going to succeed. Let's go back to about 10 years ago. I was living in Israel and I was struggling with a pretty intense drug addiction. And at the time, I was living with a friend who was also an addict, and we were both doing a lot of drugs together. Pretty much from morning till night, that's what we did. We smoked, we drank, and we popped pills. And eventually, after 10 years of struggling with drug addiction, it brought me to my knees, and there was just this moment where I felt like I had enough. I need to change my life. I need to get healthy. So I went to the Kotel, which is the holiest site in Jerusalem, the Western Wall. And I went there to pray for my life because I knew I couldn't do it by myself and I really needed help, and I figured God would be the only one that could get me out of it. So I went to the Western Wall, I prayed, and on my way out of the old city that day, I bumped into my brother's rabbi, my brother's mentor. He noticed me because he knows my brother, and I met him once or twice before through my brother. And he asked me how I'm doing, and I told him I'm really not doing well. I need a place to help me. I need some help, and I need to get out of this drug addiction. And he told me that he just opened up a program for people like me to get off of drugs and back into healthy living. So I did whatever I could to get in there. I filled out the paperwork. I told him I'll stop doing drugs right away, and I'm ready to dive fully into the program. And a couple weeks later, I was in the program. And that was the first time I ever got clean after being a consistent drug user for over 10 years. And so that was a big, big shift in my life. And in that program, I faced all of my fears, all of my insecurities, all of my traumas, and it all came out. It was an incredible, emotional, intense journey. But most of all, it was a spiritual journey. It was a spiritual journey of coming back to myself, coming back to who I am, and ultimately learning how to live life on life's terms, learning how to live life in reality and not running away from myself, not running away from the truth, but really embracing who I am, what I've been through, and what I want in life. And that was really the beginning of my journey of discovering what I want in life and who I want to become. And that's where my business journey started as well. Even though at the time I didn't really know it was my business journey. But looking back, I see that that was the beginning of my business journey, because my business journey is a spiritual journey. And I believe all businesses should be run from a spiritual perspective. So after a couple months of being clean off of drugs, I started feeling a lot better. I was finally able to enjoy food. I was able to enjoy regular relationships, regular outings into nature, and that childlike wonder came back to me, and I was climbing trees and getting into a little bit of calisthenic workouts. I was doing push-ups and chin-ups, pull-ups, and I started to feel like I'm coming alive. Now, like I said, this was a spiritual journey, but I was coming back to my body first. And I believe that the body is super spiritual as well. So my journey of returning to health and returning to myself was really, it began in the body. And after a while of getting healthy in my body, I did research into a couple of holistic health books, and I learned about organic produce and eating well, drinking well, sleeping well, moving well, and started to incorporate that into my lifestyle. I had a lot of time now, a lot of open schedule, because I was no longer chasing drugs. So I had time, and I even had a little bit of money saved up. So I was spending money on good things like healthy foods, and I bought myself a juicer and a blender for smoothies, and started getting into eating healthy. Really started treating my body well, and that brought me back to life. And I'm Jewish, so I wanted to connect my physical wellness journey to my spiritual wellness journey, to my service of God. So I started connecting some of the Kabbalistic concepts that I was really into at the time, and concepts that spoke to me, concepts that still speak to me, that explain reality in a way that can be experienced and also can be quite mysterious in nature, but when experienced, they feel very much like truth. They resonate like truth. They ring deeply in my being. So as I was doing these movements, I also incorporated some of the intentions that I got from Judaism, from the Torah, from Kabbalistic teachings. And that really resonated with me. And I started making videos just for fun. I started making videos on the things that I was developing, some of the practices I was developing. For example, there's a concept in Kabbalah of the Jewish letters, and each letter kind of has its own teaching. So I would use yoga movements and put my body in the shape of the letters and hold the pose in order to embody the lesson of that letter and the wisdom of that letter. And by doing these practices, I felt like I was doing something good for my body and for my mind and for my soul, all at the same time. And that really was a breakthrough for me in my personal service to myself and my personal service to God, understanding how to incorporate all three pillars of life into one movement, into one exercise. And at the time, I was calling these videos Movement for the Mind, Body, and Soul. And a couple years later, I developed it into a system called Magen, because I noticed that, especially being a letters guy, I noticed that the beginning of each one of these words in Hebrew, which is Moach, Guf, Neshama, mind, body, soul, is the letters Mem, Gimel, Nun, which spell out Magen, which is actually the word for a shield and a protection in Hebrew. So it felt like this divine message to me that this is what it's supposed to be called, because it makes sense. This is the ultimate defense against anything negative in life, any kind of negative inclinations. The ultimate defense is being proactive about your holistic health, being proactive about your mind, body, and soul, moving forward and growing. So that was the birth of the Magen movement. Now, after only about 9 months of me being clean, that mentor who helped me in the beginning told me now he wants me to be helping other guys. He wants me to become a counselor in the program that helped me. And that was a scary option, but also a real privilege. I was honored that he saw that I was doing well to the point where he wanted me to work for him to help other guys. And that's where I started working in the old city. I was working as a counselor in a rehab center for guys just a couple years younger than me who were going through similar things that I've been through. And I started being able to help them along. And in that old city program, I worked there for 2 years. And I learned a lot of valuable lessons. The top 3 lessons that I learned from working in that rehab center was, first of all, in any kind of position or field, but especially in personal development, if you want to grow, the best way to grow is by giving over what you already know to other people. So as you're growing, as you're developing yourself, as you're developing your own spirituality, share that with others, and that will 10x your growth. For me personally, what that did for me was it made it more clear for me, because when I had to give it over to people, I had to understand it on a deep level. I had to really break it down inside of my own mind and understand what it is that I'm doing and why is it working for me, and how can I give that over in a clear way that people can start to internalize that and to apply it to their lives. Number 2, helping others made me feel amazing about myself. I mean, talk about self-esteem. One of the best ways to higher your self-esteem is to help other people, because if you're helping others, you feel good. That's God's natural gift to us, is that when we give, we feel great. And there's always someone you can give to, whether it's giving a compliment, whether it's giving a gift, or whether it's just doing them a favor, you know? There's always an opportunity to give. And when you start to become a giver, you start to become more happy. The third lesson that I learned in the old city was that you need a vision. All powerful people have a vision for their future and they're living into that vision. Now, the vision works best when it's very specific, but it's not set in stone. When you set a vision, you're really just setting a direction. It's almost like setting the compass on your boat, setting it in the right direction, and then you can let go of the wheel sometimes, but you know you're heading in the right direction. So you don't always have to keep your eye on the destination 100%. But if you know you're generally going in the right direction, that's a great start. So setting a vision in the beginning is super important. And I did that using a vision board. Now, a vision board is very simply, whether it's a digital or an actual physical piece of paper, usually a big piece of paper so you can fit a bunch of smaller pictures onto that piece of paper. And you fill it with all of your dreams, the things that you want to accomplish, the things that you want to do, the person you want to become, right? This could be the body you want to have, the car you want to drive, the wife you want to marry. All of these things can be portrayed in pictures on your vision board, and you create this vision board and you look at that board daily. That's what I did, and I still do this. And I'll tell you, it's the most beautiful thing to see my vision board coming to life. I'm literally manifesting each one of my visions one by one. And it all started there in the old city, helping other people get through addiction, helping other people get healthy, helping other people come back to themselves and reconnect with the wonder and the gift of life itself. So those 2 years in the old city really gave me a strong foundation, and I felt like I was finally ready to build my future, to really live into my vision and to make my dreams come true. So this was the first time I really ever thought about where I want to live, what I want to do, right? And I thought at the time that I was going to be living in Israel forever. I was already there for 10 years. I created really good relationships there, friends, families, and I felt like I belonged in Israel. The thing is that after finally healing from my drug addiction and finally having clarity of what I wanted to build in my future, I started to really miss my family. And so I decided I'm actually going to come back to America to be with my family and to build my business here in America. And I have it in my mind, in the future, I definitely want to be in Israel. I want to live there, maybe half of the year there, half of the year somewhere else. But it's definitely on my future vision board. But for now, I'm back in America and I'm building my business, and I've never been closer to my family. So thank God for that, and I'm really, really grateful to be back. So right when I came back, pretty much hit the ground running. I was like, I'm here to connect with my family, and that's going great. Building the relationships back up and just, being with my nieces and nephews, and it was just so heartwarming. My heart was so full, and I was ready to hit the ground running on my business adventure as well. And so, like I said, the business path is a spiritual path. So first of all, it was all about understanding who I am and discovering who I am and what I want to give to the world, right? Because every business is really a form of giving. Especially a spiritual business is answering a problem. It's answering a pain that someone has, and you're there to solve their problem for them in exchange for money. So I was constantly asking myself, what problem do I want to solve? And I know I always like to help people, and I want to help people become healthy physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But at the time, I didn't feel like I really had the tools to turn that into a business. I was still discovering that for myself. So I leaned more towards the drumming part of my life. And I've been drumming since I'm 5 years old. So I'm pretty good at drums, and the past 5 years in Israel, I was also gigging and playing in multiple different bands, wedding bands and festival bands. And I got really good at drumming. So I figured I'm already good at drums. I love to do it. And I'm clearly supposed to use my drums to make people happy. So maybe I'll turn that into a full-time business. And what I did in order to get gigs here in America right away was, first of all, I actually got hired by a friend of mine who does lighting for events. And my plan there was to lay low and make some quick cash just from working for my friend. And while I'm on these jobs setting up the lights, I'll also network with some of the musicians there in those event spaces. So I was speaking to all of the musicians that I met at these venues. I gave them my number, sent them a couple videos of me playing, and I said, hey, give me a call if you ever need a drummer. I did the same thing with all of the party planners that I met at all of these event spaces, and that's how I networked myself in the beginning and got my first couple gigs. Now, the way it works in the Jewish music scene is that one gig leads to the next. So I got one gig with one singer, and then that guitar player on the same gig called me for the next gig, and then someone saw me in a video, so they called me, and eventually I built my name up to be a pretty good, well-known drummer in the area, and I was getting pretty decent amount of gigs per month, and that was able to support me at the time. I was actually living at my parents', just got back from Israel. I was living at my parents' and I was gigging. That was my main thing. But I realized pretty quickly that that's not going to be my long-term business. I mean, there's only so many gigs you can get in the Jewish world, and I didn't really want to break out into like the non-Jewish scene, so I just stuck with what I was doing and started to rack my brain a little bit about how I can turn this drumming thing into a full-fledged business. And at the time I was doing a lot of research on online business and saw how many people are doing amazing things on YouTube, selling courses, affiliate marketing, stuff like that. So I started to make drum videos. And one of the things that always stood out to me as a drummer was those drum cover videos. And so I started making drum cover videos and figuring out how to make them look good, how to make them sound good, how to learn songs, how to record songs. After a while, I got pretty good at it, and I figured I could turn that into a course. So I started building out this course on drum cover building and drum cover creation. And I got pretty good at the course. I got pretty good at breaking down how to do it. I just couldn't figure out the tech end. That was the big wall that I hit in the drum cover course building, was that I couldn't figure out the tech end. How do I build a website? How do I host the course? How do I collect payments? All those things were just like, I thought I wasn't a tech guy, and it was just too hard for me to figure out all of that part. So I kind of dropped that. And I decided that I'm not going to follow through on this course building business. Now, it kind of felt like a failure to me, but at the same time, I was reading a lot of books, and I understand that many businesses fail at first, and the key to becoming successful is to just keep going. And I also understood that it's never a failed business if you learn the lessons. So for me, on my spiritual path of building a business, I'm always looking out for small failures, but more importantly, the small lessons that I learn along the way. And therefore, all the failures, the quote-unquote failures, are not really failures. And when you learn lessons from a failure, it's actually a win. So here's the 3 lessons I learned from my 3 businesses. First of all, networking is key. The people that you know will connect you with the jobs that you need and the clients that will be best for you. Lesson number 2 is, if you don't know what business to start, just go with anything. Just start something, anything that you enjoy. Turn that into a business, turn it into a product or a service, and do your best to get clients. And through that process, you'll learn so many skills on the way. You'll learn about marketing, you'll learn about video content, you'll learn about reach outs, you'll learn about sales. All of these things are really, really important skills that you will learn on the way. So don't worry too much about getting it right at first. Just focus on learning lessons and building skills. And the 3rd lesson, and this is the lesson I learned from my AI agency business, is that if you take yourself seriously and you act as if you belong, then you'll find yourself in the right rooms with the right people, and that will lead you to the right jobs and clients that will bring you success. So be confident in what you're doing no matter what. Put yourself out there 100%. Take yourself seriously, and other people will take you seriously. So after these 3 businesses, I was back to the drawing board. And I was around that same time that I met another musician who had a similar vision to me when it came to holistic health and connecting that to Kabbalistic roots and to our Jewish tradition. And so we started talking about creating events together, musical events, but also with a meditative twist and a little bit of a physical exercise mixed in with it. And we were really just visualizing a very interesting and unique approach to holistic health infused with music. So we started making events, and this was the rebirth of the Magen Movement. all these years ago in Israel when I started my spiritual path to growth, my holistic path to growth. I never thought that the Magen Movement would turn into something actually tangible that other people can gain from. But here I was, making events, creating a space where people can actually grow and discover what works for them. And so this was going really well, and this became my new business venture. This became my new vision and really my original vision, but the rebirth of the vision. And so I was working with this partner. We were making events. They were going great. We had a bunch of people coming to the events, and things were developing slowly. We made events that were based on meditation, fitness, yoga, music, all blended into an interesting, unique mix. So this 6 to 9 months of making events was a beautiful trial and error period. We tried everything out. We saw what worked and we saw what didn't work. Here's 3 lessons that I learned from that trial and error period. Number 1, when you're making events, your job is to create a space. And this is really for all coaches and all healers and all facilitators. Your job is to create a space. And in that space, magic happens. And the key is to create a safe space where people feel comfortable to explore and expand themselves and to really discover who they really are and what needs to be done in order to heal. Right? You can't force anyone to grow. You can't force anyone to heal. You can't force anyone to change their life. All you can do is provide a space that can inspire them to make the change themselves. The second lesson I learned making events is that collaboration is the key for growth. By collaborating with others, you're bringing more energy to the marketplace, you're bringing more flow to more people, and therefore your business grows. Also, when you work with other people in your space, you can bring their audience to you. So you might only have a small audience, but if you bring on someone who has a big audience, whether it's through podcasts or whether it's an in-person event, you can attract their audience, and now you might attract some clients or customers through their audience. And the third lesson I learned on my spiritual path to building a business in the first year was pick the right partner. And I actually learned this lesson the hard way because the partner I was working with for the first 9 months of this business was not the right partner for me. Now, in the beginning, I thought he was. We had a similar vision and we were great at bouncing ideas off each other and inspiring each other to take action and to actually make things happen. And we made some beautiful things happen. The problem was that I was neglecting this thought that came up every time that I spoke to him. I was feeling a certain friction, a certain lack of flow that was there in our collaboration. There was a lot of friction in coming to agreements on decisions. And another thing that stood out to me was this guy was a weed smoker. And for me, that's a red flag because coming from the world of addiction, first of all, I know that drugs hold people back. And number 2, it's not good for me to be around people who are smoking because I'm no longer living that lifestyle and it's not who I identify as and it's not who I chose to be around. But that was something I was kind of pushing under the rug because I really wanted to make this happen and I enjoyed working with this guy for the most part. And after a while, it really started to get to me. You know, the smell and just dealing with someone who's getting high was just really, it was really hard and it was holding us both back and it wasn't good for my personal recovery and for my personal spiritual growth. So we sat down. We discussed it. I told him my concerns. He understood, and very respectfully, we split ways. And now I was on my own again. I had some time to think and revision my plan. And I decided that what I really wanted to do was kind of move it away a little bit from the music and just focus on the holistic health aspect of it. And I really want to help Jewish men who want to get healthy, who want to take control of their health, have a strong body, have a strong mind, and a strong soul so that they can live the best life possible. And I want to surround myself with the people who are willing to grow, willing to make changes, who just need the community, who just need a little bit of support in their journey. And I'm here to be that support. And I also understood that I needed a new partner, so I started searching for a new partner. Now this is where things start to get crazy because When you're on your spiritual path of business and you're starting to become more aligned with your vision and your truth, miracles start to happen. And that's exactly what happened for me, because I realized that where I was working for the sober living, down the block from me was a friend of mine I actually was friends with back from Israel, who was a personal trainer, a therapist, a great guy who's into growth, and he has a gym in his house that he let me use for free. So I started going to his gym and we were working out, we were talking, growing together. This is more like the kind of person that I want to work with and the person that I want to hang out with. So we started hanging out more and more, and eventually I invited him to join me in building this company, the Magen Movement. And he accepted with a smile and open heart. And we immediately dove into creating the program, to creating the curriculum, and creating content on how to be a holistically healthy person, how to be a spiritual warrior. And we started building these Sunday programs that are for guys of all ages and teaching them how to work out, how to meditate, how to set proper goals and set their mind so that they can actually achieve their goals, and giving them a space to connect in a soulful connection with each other. And the Sunday programs are going great. They're still going on right now. Now, after a while of running these Sunday programs, I was ready to take the business to the next level, and I needed more time in my schedule to do that. So I gave in my notice to my boss at the sober living place, and I told him that I'm going to be leaving. And right around that time, a miracle happened. And Ari, my partner, told me that he's moving out of his house, which has a fully loaded gym in there, and he's looking for somebody to move in. And I was like, hey, I'm going to move in. I'm going to create the Magen Movement in the house. Create the house to be the Magen Center. We'll host events there. We'll host the Sunday program there, the spiritual retreats there. And we'll create content in the house, and that will be the new plan. So we closed the deal, and now it's time to move into the new house. And I'm so excited. I'm literally going to be moving tomorrow into the new house and creating this space to be the Magen Center for the movement to really, really happen, to really bring people into the movement, to bring people into a new way of life, into a life that's aligned with the mind, body, and soul. People can really discover their true connection to life itself, right? People want to be vitalized. People want to be excited. People want to feel good and be good. And they just need a little bit of a push. They need a little bit of support and a community that's doing that. And that's what the Magen Movement is here to do. And that's something that speaks to my core. Looking back on my spiritual journey of building a business, all the businesses that I built were good ideas, and they spoke to me on some level, but none of them speaks to my core like the Magen Movement. The Magen Movement is my soul. It's really what I want to give to the world. My personal mission in life is to bring more life to life. Because I believe that the purpose of life is to live, right? God gave me life to enjoy it and to live fully. And part of my enjoyment of life is adding life to life and bringing people to life. So people who are depressed, people who are struggling to get out of bed and to get a consistent job or to get healthy in their mind or body, the Magen Movement is for you. The Magen Movement is for people who are stuck and who are ready to get moving. And we provide the education, the community, and the support that you need in order to move forward. And that feels like it's aligned with my spirit, with my soul. So that's why I say that business is a spiritual journey. So thank God I got the new partner, I got a new direction and a new vision. Same old vision, but now it's renewed, revamped with a new partner. And that's another golden nugget that I got and that I want to give to you on the spiritual path to building a business is don't be afraid of renewal. Renewal is a beautiful thing, and renewal is actually required in creating your vision, creating your dream. Don't be afraid to reassess who you're working with, what you're doing and how you're doing it. Because you might discover new and better ways to do the same thing. And you get more clarity the more times that you renew yourself and to reevaluate your values, reevaluate your vision. You might discover new things for yourself, and you might get more clarity onto what exactly it is that you're giving to the world and who exactly it is that you want to help. So, tomorrow is the big day. I'm going to be moving into my new house and the first ever Magen Center. I'm telling you, I'm so excited. I can't wait to get this off the ground and to really bring people into this space. I want to give you 3 lessons that I learned from moving into a new place. First of all, manifestation is real. I know this is a term that gets thrown around a lot, but manifestation is when you have intentional thought combined with action. Meaning when you have a vision and you're intentional about where you want to go and you start making actions in that direction, the things that you dream of find a way to you. Okay, so manifestation is not some magic spell that you just throw it out into the universe and then you find it in your backyard. But really, it's about setting an intentional direction on your path and being intentional about where you want to be. And then taking action in that direction. And then the things that you want tend to find you. That's what real manifestation is. And that's how I discovered this house. That's how I discovered this partner. It was all through getting more clear about what I want, what I need, and what I want to do. The second lesson I want to give you is through an analogy, okay? So imagine you're climbing a mountain, and this is a really tall mountain, and your goal is to get to the top of the mountain, but it might take a few days. So you bring along your survival bag that has everything that you need in there to survive, right? You got your food, your water, sleeping bag, fire starter, all that, right? And you have this bag on you, and you're halfway up the mountain, and you reach this wall. And it's a big wall, and you don't see any way over the wall. You're not sure how you're going to get past this wall, but you know you need to get past this wall to get to your goal. So you have 2 options. Either you could turn around and go back down and accept defeat, or you can take your survival bag and throw it over the wall. So now you're forced to get over the wall. Okay, so that's the most powerful way to make sure you reach your goals, is to not give yourself any other option. When you throw your bag over the wall, you have no other option. Now you need to find a way to get over the wall. And you need to succeed. And that need, that almost primal need to survive, is what's going to get you over the wall and to your goal. And so what I did was, before I even knew I had a place to move into, I quit my job. I told him I'm leaving. And now, even though I got this new place, I'll tell you, to be honest, I don't even know how I'm going to pay rent every month. But I know that my bag is over the wall. And so I'm going to figure out a way. And that's such a powerful driver forward. And that risk of throwing my bag over the wall is only worth it because I know of the 3rd lesson. And the 3rd lesson is faith comes first. My business, especially because it's a spiritually led business, is faith-based, which means that I have faith that my business is going to succeed. Since I know that I'm doing God's work, I'm adding more life to life, I'm bringing people to life through movement, I know that God is going to assist me and that I'm going to find a way to succeed. So I have faith that everything's going to work out. I have faith in myself. I have faith in my partner. I have faith in my business, that everything is going to work out, that we're going to get the right clients, we're going to be able to help the right people, and that we're going to be able to pay rent every month and afford the overhead of the business. There's no question in my mind that we're going to succeed. There's no question in my mind that I'll have the money to come up with every month for rent. I don't know how, but I have the faith, and that's enough. All right, so that's my spiritual business journey. I hope that you were able to take those lessons and apply them into your life, into your spiritual business. I'd love to hear about what kind of business you're building, so put that in the comments if you are building a business, and feel free to comment or question anything else. All right, and so before I end the video, I just want to share with you my next couple steps. Actually, tomorrow I'm moving into the new location, And then the next day after that, I'm going to be flying to Mexico to do a gig in a hotel for the entire Passover. So that's really awesome. I get to travel and get a little break before we jump right back into this business full time. So stay tuned to see the vlog from Mexico. I plan to vlog that and get some videos of me playing over there. Should be pretty cool. As soon as I get back from Mexico, I'm opening up the Magen Center. We're going to be open for the Sunday programs. We'll be running retreats. We'll be putting out online courses. And I'm also offering a one-on-one coaching for anyone who wants to do an in-depth mind, body, and soul program with me. So that's going to be available as well. And I'm going to be posting videos monthly on this channel with updates on what I'm up to, how the business is doing, and most importantly, the lessons and the skills that I'm learning on the way so I can share that with you and you could apply it to your own business. All right, so stay tuned on this channel. Feel free to check out the Magen Movement channel also for some podcasts I'll be doing with really interesting spiritual practitioners and professionals. So you'll be able to learn a lot of lessons from them, those guys as well. And God bless, guys. Thanks for tuning into the video. I'll see you in the next one.